Okay, we are finally here. All right, you know the routine. You know the routine. If this clock that's here gets to zero, when it gets to zero, that's when the show's actually going to start. So if you're watching this and there's nothing right here that says click here to watch the real show, then just scrub forward until this, and that will be what you get to watch until I get the edited, finalized, polished version up online. You can always come back later too. Whatever works for you. We'll see you in a bit. If you're live, don't go anywhere. Just stick around. All right, we're just going to come on, throw that up there while we wait for the final countdown. Hey, good morning, good afternoon. It's not morning anymore. I do apologize for this morning's kerfuffle. This show was supposed to be on, what, 4 hours ago or 3.5 or whatever it was. Yeah, small plumbing emergency at home. So I come back from my run. My wife's already left to go to work. I come home and I'm just about to jump in the shower. We got the washing machine is running. I had started it before. Just about to jump in the shower, and I hear what sounds like water hitting the floor. Good thing I have reasonably good ears still. I hear this and I think, that ain't right. That is not the right sound to be hearing. I can hear that the washing machine is draining, and it sounds like water hitting the floor. This is not the right combination of sound. So I run into the kitchen, and sure enough, there's a puddle of water coming out. Now, the first thing you're going to say is, hold on, did you say kitchen? Yes. So my house, I didn't build it. My house has a washer and dryer in the kitchen, which sounds remarkably convenient. And it is because if it wasn't there, then it would be like way out in the garage, which is a separate building, and that would suck in the middle of winter when it's freezing cold. You don't want to have to deal with it. So it's convenient, but it also means you have to listen to it. So that also means that you tend to run the washer and dryer when you're not home, hence the water issue. And, oh, Ninja 15 loves my reviews. Why, thank you, Ninja 15. And so, anyway, so I hear the water coming out on the floor. Our kitchen has hardwood floors. Now, again, you're thinking, you what? Why would you have a washing machine on a hardwood floor? It's a really good question. You should really ask my landlord that. So Anyway, so the water's coming out. So obviously I turn off the washing machine. There's an emergency valve just for the washing machine. So at least that part was well thought out. So I turned that off. And grabbing towels, soaking up the water, and trying to figure out, what the hell's gone wrong. And of course, I'm no plumber. I have no idea. It's before 8 a.m. I'm texting the landlord saying, do you have a preferred emergency plumber? No response. So I start going through the phone book. And for those of you who follow me on Twitter might have seen this morning, I said, hey, if you want to make a good living, become a plumber. Because let me tell you, there aren't that many out there. I went through 5 different listings on Google before I found one that was either willing to work, not super busy, didn't retire. Well, I'm retired, no longer taking business. It's hard to find a plumber. And of course, they can charge premiums, which I can totally understand. Supply and demand, there you go. So anyway, you want to be a plumber, makes me good money. Fortunately, I found a great company. They were out within like 90 minutes. There was no more leaking, so it wasn't really an emergency, but I had to delay things. And they found out what they figured out. And actually, I got to give credit to the plumbing place. They accurately diagnosed this over the phone. I explained what happened. They chatted about it a bit, and they had me send a picture of the washing machine. They called me back, and they said, we think that it is simply backing up, like the drain is clogged and it's backing up. And as I said that, I thought, well, isn't that interesting? We just had a minor backup in the sink. Our kitchen has 2 sinks. There's one on the island. The one on the island had just backed up, and it's the one that's closest to the washer. It had just backed up the other day. I'm not like super bad. I mean, I was able to clear it, but it was, it had backed up and it was draining a little slow. And when I said that, she goes, all right, that's got to be it then. So anyway, so they send somebody out. They run the snake thing through, and they're able to do it from the sink side. They go into I don't know what it's called, but whatever, there's a little valve in there. They open that up, go in there, snake it out. The snake goes, I think he said 50 or 60 feet down. So it's a shared line between the kitchen and it's all in the kitchen, but the kitchen sinks and the washer, it's all sharing the same line. It pulls back some hair, which tells us that it's actually gone so far that it's pulling stuff out of the showers, the bathrooms, because there's always hair there. And anyway, he gets it working, which is phenomenal. So yeah, major crisis averted. If I had not been home though, oh my God, I mean, we would have come home to a flooded kitchen and wouldn't have known about it for another 8 hours. So my landlord's, and I'm obviously in communication with her the whole time. She's like, yeah, you really shouldn't run appliances when nobody's home. I'm like, how is that this is not a realistic scenario. We're a working family. We're hardly ever home. We got to run these things when we're not home. Yeah, but I guess apparently that's something we have to be doing now. My goodness. Anyway, so Ninja, who else is here? Oh, look, my clock's at 0. I guess that means I should start the show. Thomas Emmerich, greetings. Good to see you. Watching the stream on the computer and Apple TV. Apple TV is 30 seconds behind. Interesting. I wonder why. Probably going through some. It's like YouTube through the TV, I think, is a weird, whatever, who cares? Anyway, it's good to know. Okay, should we have a show? Let's have a show. Let's do a show. Let's have a show. Oh, I should probably start recording the show. That'd be a really, really good idea, wouldn't it? If I'm like completely out of sorts, that is, because things like this that totally throw me off, I'm just like, I don't know what's happening anymore. But that's okay. We got it. Okay, hit record here. Hit record here. Oh, good number of live people watching. Awesome. For those of you who are watching live who haven't yet said hello in the chat room, please do. That's the whole advantage of watching live. You get to participate in the chat, which is just lovely. Let me get the right screen up here so I can show you the product on the B&H page as planned. Okay, let's do this thing. XPRO. That's what it's called. Let's do this. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the Godox XPRO and how it controls these fantastic little lights that we talked about last week. Good morning, well, actually, good afternoon, and welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, the first live twice a week, give or take, show here at youtube.com/PhotoJoseph, talking about all kinds of things, photo, video related gear, tech tips and techniques, and in this case, we're going to be talking instructional gear kinds of things. How y'all doing today? Today, we're talking about the Godox XPRO. O is the model that I have, and that's O for Olympus/Panasonic, and I think they actually added Pentax to that lineup somehow. When you're looking at these units, you'll see there are different units depending on your camera manufacturer, so the O is what I've got. But everything I'm going to show you here should apply no matter which one you have. And specifically, this XPRO O, let's call it the XPRO, is a remote control for their lights. These are two V862s. We talked about these about a week ago. We'll link to that show up here. That was part 1 of the show if you haven't seen that. We talked about these lights. I'm really, really digging these things. I think they're just fantastic. They're powerful. They're easy to use. They have way more features than the OEM lights like the ones from Panasonic or even from Canon, Nikon, and so on. So really overall, pretty pleased with what's going on here. And when I first bought this setup, I picked up this remote here, the X1T, because it's like 40 bucks or something, and it gives you radio trigger, radio control over these lights. And it does, and it works, but this little interface on here is a little bit hard to use. And then one of my lovely viewers, one of you fine folk, said to me on Twitter or in the comments somewhere that actually the X Pro was a much better remote. Better range, easier to use, more flexibility. And I looked it up, and it's all of $60, $70. It's all of $70. So for 70 bucks, you have a much more robust remote control. So what, $30 more? I think the other one was 40 than the other one. And I mean, this is just awesome. So this is what this show is primarily about today. We're going to talk about this trigger, this remote. I'm going to show you how it works, take you through all the functions on it, and yeah, that's what we're going to do. So let's jump into one of the, well, actually, let's do a little physical overview first. So let's get a quick little close-up on here. So on the side here, so there's a side, you've got 2 switches on here, power switch, and this, one of the only things that I had to look up in the manual. I could not figure out what the heck this was. This is a focus assist lamp, so you can turn that on or off with a physical switch on here. So what this means is if I've got this thing on my camera and I turn the the focus assist on, there we go, you see the light shining into the camera. That's creating a kind of a diamond, like a diamond metal, not a diamond sheet metal stuff, anyway, like a diamond pattern on your subject to assist in focusing. So that's what that is. So if you don't want that shining on your subject, then turn that off. Other than that, everything is just a whole bunch of buttons on, let's get that in focus. Other than that, everything is a whole bunch of buttons on the front. That's what we're going to go through. And on this side over here, you do have a little trap door. Behind that, you will find a PC sync cord and a USB slide. Notice this one's USB-C, unlike the ones that we looked at before that were USB-B, I guess, whatever, the older USB. The PC sync cord is so that you can use this to trigger manual flashes if you need to. Most cameras have that, I think. So I don't know. Anyway, if you need to have a PC cord sync, you can do that through there. I doubt too many people are going to use it. Let me talk about the USB thing for a moment, though, because the whole point of that is that you can update this, upgrade these things, update their firmware. And I said on the show last time that I would figure out how to do the firmware update and do it live on the next show. I'm not going to do that because it turns out you have to have a PC, or even better, if you're a Mac user, you don't actually have to have a PC. Completely for free, but with a fair amount of setup, you can run a virtual box and you can run the installers from there. Now, I am not going to show you how to do that because there is a fantastic video already online. We're going to link to that one right up here as well, that takes you through the entire process. It is specifically about setting up your Godox flashes and using the virtual box. Now, the version of the virtual box that is current, 6.0.0 as of the time of this recording, is a little bit newer than the recording that I've just linked to, unless he's already updated it, which he said he was going to try and do it this week. So the link that's up there is going to take you either to the older one, which is still totally accurate, but there's some things about the setup that have changed that I had to figure out, or it's going to take you to the new one once he gets that up there. So I'll let that guy show you how to do the update. It's a much better plan than me doing it because you really don't want to watch me pull my hair out trying to set up a Windows box on my machine. But the end result is I got it set up on my computer and I've updated all of the units. Incidentally, I had updated one of them and not the other one, and I couldn't get the remote to talk to it. And then I ran the update and then it worked. However, that may not have actually been the problem. I'm going to show you something in the settings that I thought was quite interesting of why I couldn't get them to talk to each other for a brief moment in time. And we'll get into that when we dig into the settings. But effectively, you have the control port, the USB port on the side for doing updates, which you shouldn't have to do very often, power and focus assist on the other side, and then, of course, all the buttons on the top. So let's go ahead and jump into an overhead view here and see what we've got on here and see what we're looking at. So this is, right away you see this really awesome thing where we see multiple groups of lights simultaneously in here, and you have a button next to each one of them. And what this means is that to control a different light, you don't have to go digging through the menus, you simply hit the button of the one you want to control. This is one of the big advantages of this unit. So you'll see this one here is labeled as, where is it, Group A, so that's A. This one's in Group B. These are both in slave mode, and in case you missed that from last time, you do have to put them in slave mode. That's what this button here does. You simply cycle through it until the screen goes orange, and that enters the slave mode. It seems to forget what group it's in when you do that, which is a little bit annoying. But the group cycles here, it does remember the channel number. Of course, they all have to be on the same channel, and then the lights are in whatever group you want it to be in. So we now have Group A, Group B, that's Group A, Group B. And when I want to make a change, I hit on the button here next to it, the physical button, that brings up Group A. And now I can do things like change the mode on that. And let's turn it off, turn it back on. There we go, there's TTL, that has now changed to TTL. If I cycle it again, it goes manual, and now I can run the dial here to make the changes to it, and you can see the numbers changing here simultaneously. You want to change B, I simply push the B button. I'm now in TTL there, or I can change that to manual and make the changes there as well. So it's really, really convenient to have this ability to very quickly not only make the changes, but see at a glance everything at once. You know exactly what A, B, and C groups are set into. And you may have noticed that there is even, we change the view here a little bit. There is even C, D, well, D and E on here as extra groups, and you can do even more groups than that if you're working with lights that are compatible with it, with those larger group numbers. Now, one of the interesting things, Godox has reached out to me now since I did the first video. Excellent. Couldn't get them to talk on a regular basis beforehand, but now they're talking. They now actually want to send out some studio lights for me to do a show on, so I'm really excited about that. We are discussing which units would be best for me to show off, but what's interesting is that you can, at least with some of the studio lights, and this I don't know everything about it yet, is you can mix and match with these smaller lights. So you can have big studio lights and these simultaneously being controlled by this unit, and that's something that I think is really, really exciting. Okay, so you got your A, B, C, and Ds on there. We're just going to run through the features and all the different buttons that are on here. So first off, right here, you've got your soft buttons, just like you had on the Flash before. We saw these before, where these soft buttons change functionality depending on what you're doing. And in this case, you'll see this one says zoom and channel, sync, all, and mod. So modeling light. We'll come to all of these. So zoom and channel. If I push it once, it takes me to the zoom mode. I can now control the zoom on these lights. Now this is a little bit funky, so this is something I do want to show you here. Let me bring this into place here, go back to the overhead view, and let's see here. Okay, so I'm in zoom. I'll hit A to zoom on A. And notice that this says 28, this is blank right now. If I move this, can you hear it moving? You hear the motor moving? So we are actually moving the head, however, we're not seeing it displayed in here. Plus, this will allow us to go to numbers that are far higher than what the Flash should actually be able to do. So it's not a perfect synchronization between, but it is actually controlling the zoom. Whereas here, if I go to B, it says 24, I'll change it, and nothing's happening. This isn't changing, and we're not actually hearing the head move, so it's not moving. So even though this makes it look like we're able to control it, we're not here. And the way you can control it is you have to go into the zoom setting where you would set it manually, take it all the way down to the bottom to where you would normally put it into auto. So if this was on the camera, that would now say auto, but off the camera, it just has the dashes, but now that also means that from here, I can actually control it. So you can hear it again. Or you can rack it back down to auto, which honestly, when it's all in an off-camera flash situation, I'm really not sure what exactly what it's going to do in auto. Because the zoom, when it's on auto and it's somewhere else, the zoom focal length has no relevance to your camera setting. It's just a creative choice. So anyway, but that's how the zoom setting works. It's a little bit funky. I would say even potentially a little bit buggy, but it does work. Okay, so let's go back into this guy here. Let's get out of zoom. Now here's an interesting thing as well. I want to get out of the zoom function, but you notice that, well, it just came back up. Let me bring that back in. We're looking at it in this mode. I've got control. However, the zoom button here is gone. You have to deselect, and this takes some getting used to, and this comes up a couple times where to get out of this, you have to deselect so nothing is selected to get back to that toggle. If I hit B here again, it doesn't deselect it. If I can hit A to select that or B to select that, but that doesn't deselect it. I actually have to hit the set button to deselect it, and now I get my zoom toggle button back. So now when I hit that, it takes me back to the power control. The slash on there means channel, and whenever you see a button with a dual function, the second function, this seems to be universal across these devices now, is a long press to bring up whatever it is. So in this case, it's the channel control. If I do a long press on that, it will bring up the ability to change the channel. So you can see here I'm on channel 20, and of course all devices have to be on the same channel to be able to communicate with each other. Next you have sync, that is simply to enable high-speed sync mode, so you have that capability right there. And then we have, let's get out of the zoom function, all, which I think is so cool. So we're in manual mode right now. Let me just kind of set this up a little bit more. Let me take this up a little bit brighter. So let's say I've got this one manual at 1/64th and that one manual at 1/28th. Okay, let's back out of that setting. If I hit the all button, it's now selected everything so I can take everything evenly up or down. I think that is fantastic. So all of your lights, if you have a nice balance, you like the balance between the A group and the B group and the C group, but you want to make them all a little bit brighter or a little bit darker, that one button does that. And I think that is super, super cool. Then you have a mod button, which is a modeling light, and these don't have modeling lights. That's for controlling the studios, but that will allow you to toggle the modeling lights on and off, and you can do those individually as well. And then you have the, the mode button we already saw. That allows you to, if I go back into A, for example, to change the mode between off, TTL, and manual. So that's what the mode button does. Press and hold that, and it will lock. So if you're doing a shoot, you want to lock it, press and hold it. There it says locked, and now none of these buttons are going to do anything. Again, super useful. If you're in a rapid fire situation, you're worried about bumping it, changing a setting, you can lock that into place. Dig that. Let's go ahead and unlock that. Okay, and then, oh, incidentally, here you can change the groups, which all that is cycling through the groups here. It's not any additional control. It's the same thing. It's just pushing on the button there to select it. All right, let's get out of that. Let's see, that's everything on the left-hand side. Well, the flash button, obviously, push that to trigger the flash. Let's go to the menu button next. The menu brings up the pretty extensive menu controls that are in here, and there's some interesting options. So first of all, you have your standby, right? Obviously, do you want it to be able to go to sleep or not? Beeping, I like this. So I can control whether the flashes beep from here. Flash beeping is not something I would normally want, especially if I'm shooting on-camera flash. It's just not the kind of thing that I want. But in a studio environment, it's quite useful, especially if you have multiple lights going, you hear them beep, you know that they are ready to fire again. So let me do this. Let me back out of here. I'm going to set A all the way up to maximum power. So I want there to be a delay in recycle time. And then B, we're going to set that to the lowest power. So there's clearly going to be a difference between them. Okay. So let's get back out of there. I go into the menu, and let me turn the beep on. And now when I fire it, do you hear the difference there? So that first beep is one of them flashing that it's done. That's the 1/28th power one. It's immediately done. And then, of course, the other one's taking a little bit longer to recycle because it was a full power. So I think it's super, super useful to be able to do that and to be able to control that from here, because that's just one of those things that you usually don't want on, but in certain environments you certainly do. The step, how many steps, how fine the steps are between your settings, including the ability to go to 1/256th adjustment, which seems to be certain lights, because these don't appear to do that. Light, that's your background light there. So we talked about this before on the last show. It's 12 seconds by default, or you can have it off or on full time. I've got it on full time for the demo, but when I'm done demoing these, I'll put it back to the 12-second because I don't want it to chew down the batteries. Next up is sync. This is an odd description, but I don't know, in versus out seems odd, but basically you set it to out if you want to use the PC sync cord on the side of it. That's what that's all about. Okay, grouping. So you have 5 groups now, A through E, or you can set it to 16 groups, O through F, or 0 through F, I'm not quite sure. Either way, when you go to 16, it's only manual control, but that does give you a lot more groups. Again, you have to have compatible lights for that, but it gives you a lot more control over it. And honestly, if you're controlling that many lights, being in manual is not a problem. That's the kind of environment where you do want to be in manual, very carefully going in and adjusting the power of each individual group. Your LCD adjustment in here, just making that a little higher or lower contrast. Okay, this one, I cannot figure this out to save my life. The instructions are not very well written. There's single shooter and multi-shooter mode. The descriptions are exactly the same, except it says single or multi-shooter, and I don't understand what a multi-shooter mode is, because you have one of these and multiple lights, that's your one shooter. If you have multiple of these controlling the same lights, then each one of those you just put on the same channel. I just don't understand what it means. So if someone knows, let me know in the comments, let me know in the chat. I would love to understand what that is. If someone says what it is and can identify that in the comments, I will pin that comment for everybody else to see. The next feature though, let's go back into the menu, I really would love to work, and that's the app. There is an app on both Android and iOS, and I cannot get either one of them to work. I can't get them to see the units. I've written to the company. I don't know if it's like just it doesn't support these specific model numbers or what the deal is, but I cannot get the app on either iOS or Android to talk to them. But in theory, at least, you should be able to do all of this control from an app. When you go into app mode, if I do this, let's go into app mode now, I'm locked out of everything, right? It just says app on it. I'm locked out. I have to do all the controls from an app, which sounds awesome, right? Doesn't that sound cool to be able to do, especially you got a huge lighting setup, to be able to change all that on the phone? And in a video that I watched about it, where somehow they had it working, they were able to save the settings. So you have a complex studio setup, you can save your settings for it. Or how about this scenario? And I've run into this before. This is something that I've done, where I have a repeat client, repeat business. They come in and they bring in these sculptures that I photograph for them. And I need to make sure that they look as close to identical as possible across the years. And I've been shooting for her for years now. She comes in with new sculptures. We want to have the background looking the same, the lighting looking the same every time. And so I take pictures of and make notes of my lighting setup. How about if I could store that lighting setup in my phone? That'd be pretty cool. So anyway, if anybody knows how to make that work, that's another one. You could win some bonus points trying to figure that one out. Anyway, in the meantime, let's go back to this and change that back to the single shooter mode. Distance. So this is the one that got me into trouble when I was setting up for today's show, and I couldn't talk to one of the lights. And what I realized was that I was having trouble talking to the light that was closest to it, because by default it was set to 1 to 100 meters. Notice the second setting is 0 to 30 meters. So it's my interpretation of this is that it is a stronger signal output at 1 to 100, so strong that it is kind of interfering when it's super close. Like it's too strong of a signal for it to read when it's in the closer proximity. As soon as I changed that to 0 to 30, it started working perfectly, even though the units were side by side. So kind of an interesting thing in there, but that's worth knowing. If you are trying to control the units and they're really close and it's not working, go in and change that setting from 1 to 100 to 0 to 30. It's obviously just a lower power setting, and away you go. ID is not used. That is something that is apparently an old thing that's been deprecated. And then this is a control. This allows you to choose which light systems you're using for something called TCM. It's TTL converted to manual, I think is what it is. I've never found an actual true abbreviation extrapolated out, but I think that's what it means. And here's how it works. It's kind of cool. So it's already set to these kind of lights. You're probably not going to use it all that often, but here's the deal. So let's go to this view here. Let's say that I'm in full TTL mode. So let's go to my A and set this to TTL, and I'll just take it down like 2/3 of a stop. And then I go to B, and that one's also in TTL, and we'll take it whatever down. Oh, so it's up 2 1/3 and down whatever, 0.7. Okay. So if at this point I would love to know what these settings are in manual mode, I press and hold this TCM button. Now it's not going to actually show you the proper calculation now because this isn't on the camera. It hasn't fired a test shot. It doesn't actually know. But when you do have it all put together, what happens when you press and hold this is it converts over, and now it's just going to put both of them at full power, but it would say manual at, say, 1/256 or whatever, and M at 1/128th, whatever it might be. It tells you what the manual settings are, which is really neat. It basically takes your settings, converts it to manual, so you can now go in there and refine it that way if you want to. So very, very useful little button on there. And that is everything to it. That's all there is to these things. Straightforward, quite easy to use. I spent about 10 minutes with it yesterday when I first opened it out of the box, or 2 days ago, whatever it was, and went through all the buttons on there without looking at the manual. I figured out what everything was except for that side button there that turns on the focus assist and the TCM. I couldn't figure out what that was until I read it. It's like, oh, that's what it does. But everything else was able to be figured out just by playing with it for a few minutes. So really great product. I'm super excited with this. I'm very excited to be getting some studio lights from them as well, start doing some mix and matching. And we'll be doing more shows on these for sure. This was kind of a video manual show, if you will, but we will get into these more and spend some time actually shooting with them and have some fun with them. So with that, my friends, we're done with the show. We're going to jump into the Q&A now. If you have any questions and you're watching live, drop them into the live chat. And if you're not watching live, then just drop them into the questions down below, into the comments below, and I'll do my best to get to them. Good morning and welcome back to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, the Q&A portion of the show. And I already see that someone has educated me on what that multi-shooter mode is. Technopilot says, the multi-shooter mode is a very powerful option. It's about whether the flash sends out the power value on each trigger or not. It allows each shooter to have different power settings simultaneously. Now I understand. So if you have multiple photographers with these, using the same lighting setups, they can individually say, I want that light at quarter power, and someone else says, no, I want it at eighth power, and this will communicate that to the light. That is awesome. Thank you, Technopilot, for explaining that to me. That's awesome. You say then, since you're having direct contact with Godox, can you please check with them if they have any intentions on fixing the last of high-speed sync support on the GH5 for remote use? I was not aware there was an issue. Please elaborate on the issue, and I will gladly talk to them. It's funny, now I'm in this email chain with a whole bunch of people there. It's fascinating. Okay, I see anything else going on in the comments. I didn't see much come by here. I see Ninja and Technopilot are having a big conversation, but I didn't see my name pop up, so I'm not going to try and address it. You say the lack of high-speed sync. So it doesn't work? Let's find out. Let's see what you're talking about. Here's, okay, you said GH5, right? Yep, GH5. Okay, does this have a battery in it? It does not. Props. This one has a battery. Let's see here. So you're saying, and these are all updated. I just updated all these, so they all have, oh, has a dead battery. They all have the latest firmware. So let's just see. All right, let's put this into manual mode. Let's take this guy and slide that on. And these are all ready. That's all good to go. Okay, so I hit sync on here. It switches into high-speed sync mode. And let's take my shutter speed up to high speed, 64/100th of a second. So you're saying that it is not going to work. Is that effective? Probably don't have a card in here. Oh, I do. Look at that. This is obviously not going to be a correct exposure, but oh, actually it did work. Okay, so I got a picture. Let's see here. Can I verify the setting? It was 64/100th of a second. The flash did fire, clearly fired. Seems to have worked. I mean, my settings are, you know, actually the fact that I got an exposure is remarkable because I just turned everything on, but it worked. Let's just see. Let me take the A power way down. Let's make sure that that wasn't some super weird fluke. Take the A power way down. There's my A light. And it's definitely less light. That appears to have worked. I'm not quite sure. Technopilot says it bans very badly. I'm not getting any banding. I am not getting any banding. Okay, well, it doesn't actually, let's see, you're saying it doesn't actually, since you can't get into high-speed sync with all your efforts. So you can't even get into the mode. And you're using the remote? I just hit the remote into high-speed sync and it just worked. And you've updated to the latest version? Let's see, what was the latest version on this thing? It was like 1.4, I think. Let's see here, let me go to, I'll have to focus that. Let's see here. Now it's on the camera. There we go. If I press, no, if I go into the menu button, 1.2. So it's in the 1.2 firmware. Interesting. Technopilot says, sorry, I can turn on the mode, try it on a wall. It's a known issue. It was. It's working for me. I mean, unless I'm just missing something entirely, but it's definitely in high-speed sync mode. I mean, it has to be or else it wouldn't be firing. So if I take it out of high-speed sync, let's take it out of high-speed sync on the unit. The camera's still set to 6400th. Now the camera just dropped back to 250th of a second. I cannot raise the shutter speed over that. Enable high-speed sync mode on the trigger, and now I can bring it up. There it's at 8 thousandths of a second. Let's take the power on that A unit up a bit. Take it up a bit more, and that's the A unit. And it's dark, but it's working and there's no banding. Let's get the power up even more. Want to make sure I'm not getting banding here. And I'm at 8 thousandths of a second now. And nope, no banding. Nope, looks fine to me. So I'm not sure, my friend. If you can find a little more info about it, feel free to drop it into the comments later on, or you can shoot me a tweet as well, and I'll see if I can figure it out. Zlatan Pasik says, the banding is an old thing. Current models with current firmware do not suffer from banding. There you go. My GX8 with XPRO O and TT685 works like a charm. Okay, yeah, I would say, Technopilot, make sure you're on the latest firmware. because you saw I just updated all the firmware yesterday, and they're all working. So what did I say? This was on 1.2, and the flashes themselves are on, I have to get into CFN mode, are on 1.4. So those are the modes that these are on, and it seems to be working. Let's see here. What else we got? RT76 says, I prefer test of Godox SK302s, SK402 studio flashes because they're cheap and use a power supply. By power supply, you mean as a battery? Let me see which ones, let me pull up my email, which one they said that they wanted to send. And see, their website, look, okay, let's just be frank here. It's a great product with a crappy manual and an even crappier website. It's true. There's no way to compare the units on their website. So you're looking at 8 different studio strobes. I have no idea what the differences are. Not a one. Kind of annoying. Anyway, that said, let me just see which units they said they wanted to send, and I asked some questions about them. I'll share with you what I asked. So let's see, oops, that wasn't it. Here we go. Let's see here. They wanted to send, I guess it's farther down the email chain. Where is it? QT2s, that's what they said. And you've said, where'd your comment go? You would like to see the SK302s, SK402s. Okay, so that's not the ones that they've offered, but we'll see what the differences are. I did ask about the battery power capability. So the questions I asked, are they the most powerful ones you make? And if not, which ones are? And what are the differences? Because these are so affordable, I'm interested in showing you guys the most powerful ones on the market, because if, from there, obviously you can go down and save more money, but I want to show you something and be like, but if you really want power, you got to spend twice as much. I'd like to have the highest end ones, but we'll see what they say. And let's see here. I asked about, I wanted to confirm that I can control these and the studio lights from this. That to me is really important. That's a big part of this process of what makes it really interesting. Let's see here. Are the QT2 compatible? Oh yeah, with ProPhoto modifiers. So I asked if there's any way to adapt them, or if they're natively compatible with ProPhotos, because that's what I've got. That's my studio lights now are ProPhotos. So like my Octabox, my beauty dishes, I've got a huge softbox. I've got a bunch of stuff that is ProPhoto sized, and I would like to be able to continue using those. So that's an important question. And then I asked about the battery pack, if there's a way to run them off of batteries. So you're saying that the SK300, SK402s are, well, we'll see what they say. Hopefully these ones that they want to send me are as well. Ninja says, great review. Why, thank you. I wish you all a good night. Well, a good night to you. You love that you're doing Q&A at the end of the videos in case someone has a question. That is why we're here. Thank you very much. And incidentally, if you are ever watching these not live, the Q&A is a separate video. It gets uploaded as a separate video, and it's not listed. You get to the end of the main video, and you have a link to the Q&A, or the link is also in the description. I'm doing that for SEO reasons. So, but anyway, that's where it is. Shark says, I hope you had a nice Christmas. I did, thank you. Slightly off topic, no such thing. Have you ever used Godox LED 5600K daylights for filming? I have not. This right now, what you're seeing here is the extent of my Godox experience. So I have not played with their LED lights. They're making a lot of good products, it seems. So I'm excited to play with them. For LEDs, what I have been working with a lot are the aperture lights, which are a higher end light, but are very, very nice. They've been sweet. I'm enjoying those a lot. And I still need to do a show on those red guys back there, so that will happen too. Technopilot, from what I've seen, the most powerful is a wall-powered 1200 watt second, but for battery powered, it was running two 8600 Pros through the combiner cable and doubling bulb. Cool. All right, well, we'll see what they say. See what they want to send. RT76. The QT402M series is much more expensive as the SK series, and the QT is not good available via Amazon. It's not available via Amazon, not easily available. Is that what you mean? I didn't even look. Let me just try that real quick. Go to Amazon, and let's do a quick search here. So these are Godox QT2. No, II probably. Godox QT2s. What are we seeing here? You're right. I'm not seeing them on Amazon. Interesting. Yeah. I do want you guys to be able to actually get them. Now, they could, how about B&H? Let's try B&H. Let's see if they're on B&H. Here, I'll put this up on the screen. Incidentally, guys, if you haven't looked at it yet, I will post this tweet down below in the comments. But also, I posted on Twitter yesterday this whole mega deal zone thing that's going on, and use my link if you don't mind. That is an affiliate link. There are a lot of really good deals happening right now that only go till I think the end of tomorrow. Anyway, what did I want to do? Oh yeah, Godox QT2. Let's see what we get here. Nothing there either. Okay. Interesting. Well, we will see what they say when they come back. But yeah, if they're asking me to show products that you guys can't actually buy, that would be silly. So we're not going to do that. Let's see here. Technopilot says the QT series, though, is apparently fantastic for T1 speed compared to most of the market. Oh, we're talking about the LEDs. RT76, I'm from Germany, and only SK series is really good, available from many sellers on Amazon Germany. Interesting. Well, Amazon US too, it would seem. So. Yeah, well, I thank you for bringing that up, because I had not yet looked to see where they were available. So this is good to know. I will keep that in mind whenever they decide which ones they do want to send. I will ensure that they are actually available, because it would be kind of silly for me to show you a product that you can't get, no matter how awesome it is. Let me see if I missed anything. I feel like I missed anything. Technopilot said, can you verify if the remote had an actual update from what it came with? They didn't a month ago when I looked. So yeah, this update, I updated this yesterday. So I keep forgetting the version, to 1.2, and I think it had 1.1 on it, although I can't be positive with that. But it is at 1.2. I downloaded and installed that, updated it yesterday. There you go. All right, Assured Creative Media says my G9 works perfect for you. I'm assuming with high-speed sync. That's awesome. Let's see if anything else in here that I missed. I don't think so. Nope. All righty. Any other new comments? Otherwise, we are bailing out of here. Okay, amazing, Technopilot says. There you go. Check it out. Hopefully you have either a PC or you've figured out the whole how to emulate a PC. I'm running Windows on my Mac now. It's very weird. Very, very odd. RT76 says, I have compared all the 2.4 gigahertz studio flashes from Godox, and only the SK series is well orderable. Okay, good to know. Superb. All right, folks, hey, thank you very much for tuning in today. Sorry for the much later show than usual, but it didn't seem to affect the audience too much. I know some folks bummed that it didn't happen this morning. Me too. Dealing with a leaky kitchen was not an entertaining way to start my day, I must tell you. All right, guys, take care of yourselves. Is this the last show before New Year's? It is. This is the last show before. This is the last show of 2018. So enjoy yourselves, everybody. Have a wonderful New Year. Have a good time. Don't drink too much. And I will see you all next year. Bye-bye.